Well, hello, everyone. It is Dr. Brandy B. Oh, my goodness. We are very tardy, but we are still going to party today. Had some technical difficulties, had some duties to call to get those babies where they needed to be, but we are here with you this afternoon. I've got attorney Fred Bolling with me, and I am so excited that he is here. We are going to be in for a treat. So if you can, come on in. I'm so glad that you're here. Like I said, we are a little bit tardy, but we're going to get this thing started and we're going to still give you a great show. So come on in, come on in. You know how I have to do over here and share it to my page because, for now it's just me, but it won't be like that always. And let's see what we're doing. Let's see what we're doing. We're going to share that over here, education and the law. Come on in. All right, then we're going to go back and greet some folks. I hope some people were able to hang in there with us. I know y'all like to take your lunch and watch me. So I apologize today that I was not able to come on. We've got Betty Jeffers. She says, hello, Dr. B. I say hello to you. Miss Jessamine Wood Smith. Hello, sweet classmate. And Sora, thank you for joining. Miss Cheryl Dumas is here. Hello. She says, good afternoon. Dr. B. Yes. Hello, everybody. Come on in. We're going to give a few more. We've got 12 people watching. I do apologize, guys, that I was so tardy coming on today, but we are definitely going to try to give the people what it is that is going to be helpful. That's what we like to do over here. Anybody else here? Hello, my Auntie Eva says, my beautiful niece and handsome nephew. Welcome to the South, y'all. She is not in Philadelphia. She snuck in to the South, y'all. And we are happy to see her. Hope to catch up with her over the weekend. I love you much. Auntie Miss Sadie Gresham is here. Hello. And she says hello to Fred as well. We're up to 15. Let's see. I see there are a few more people I see over on my phone. We've got Miss Erica Harris watching. Miss, who else is that? Miss Sherry Stevens, thank you for joining. Hello, Dr. B from Sherry and JC. Hello. Thank you all for joining. Well, let's go ahead and get started. You all know who I am. I am Dr. Brandy B, your triple board certified pediatrician, adult psychiatrist, and child and adolescent psychiatrist, your ADHD expert, your mommy advocate. I'm almost everyone, honey, but it's a few things that I just don't know how to do. Like, honey, I am not cooking, but I brought somebody on with me today who can help me out. I see my auntie Wanda is on the live. We've got my soror, Mrs. Ward Young. She says, hey, my favorite couple, me and Derek are logged in. Hello to the wonderful Reverend and Mrs. Thank you all for watching. Miss Brittany Dodd is here. Thank you all so much. So I have a very special guest, y'all. He is so super special. He really is special to me. And again, we're sorry we're late. We had technical difficulties, and then we're parents, right? We're like real life parents. And so we had to go pick up somebody from school. And so, yeah, so we're here though. We are here. And so today, guys, I did something that I have never done, right? I've been a doctor a long time, and I did something today, y'all, that I've never done. Oh my goodness. I had the opportunity today. Now, if you're my patient, don't go getting any weird ideas. But I had the opportunity today to go to a meeting with a student as the group was trying to figure out what was best for the student to do, right? I don't even know what we call that meeting, but I was there and I was like, Lord, there's so many educators in here, honey. I got scared. And so I said to Mr. Bolling, Mr. Bolling, I hear that you do something like this. Can you come talk to the people? Because I cannot talk to the people intelligently about what I just witnessed. But I was so excited. It was so exciting. 15 or so years in medicine, and for sure, practicing on my own the last almost 12. So it's really more than 15 years. I've never been to one of these meetings, guys. I'm just like, something happens, magic happens, and then boom, The kids are doing something different. And so I said, we need to get somebody in here who's not just a teacher, but who knows about this from a different angle. And so that was when I said, let me go ahead and get on Mr. Bolling. So we've got with us today Attorney Fred Bolling. We're so glad that you're here, Attorney Fred. We're just going to turn you go by just Attorney Fred or Fred, or what should we call you over here? Focus on the Friday.
Coach Fred.
Coach Fred, because why should we call you Coach Fred?
Well, I just play attorney. I'm actually a little league football coach. That's my
all right. He plays attorney, he says, y'all. All right, well, we're gonna let you play attorney with us because the people out here. Now, I don't know if you know a whole lot about Focus on the Friday. Do you know about the Focus on the Friday family?
Yeah.
You know about okay, because we are real family over here, and honey, we fight for each other virtually, right? We fight for each other virtually. So tell us a little bit about who you are on your play job.
Oh, on my play job. Well, I am Attorney Fred Bolling. I don't have quite the elevated pitch that my wife has, but I will just tell you, I am a more than 20-year practicing attorney. I practice about 50% of my practice representing school boards. And I've been in and around the education field and the legal side of the education field for about as long as I've been practicing, so nearly 20 years. I currently represent the Bessemer Board of Education as well as the Choctaw County school system. I have previously represented 2 different universities in the state, as well as previously counsel to the Birmingham School Board and Sumter County. I'm a presenter of information to the Alabama Association of School Board Attorneys. And like I said, as try to just be a support person for y'all's wonderful Dr. Brandy B.
Oh, well, you cook for me, so that is good. And you are daddy extraordinaire, y'all. He is, so y'all get to meet him now, right? 2 years later, he's the one that I'm always bragging on and saying how there would really be, Dr. Brandy B, if, as I see my Sarah Nicole McCann has says, Mr. B. So Mr. B puts the B in Dr. Brandy B, and he really is the reason that I get to be able to be with you all on Fridays and whenever else you need me, because he's daddy extraordinaire. So we're going to call this the conversation series or the convo series. All right. And so you all know we brought in Dr. Terrellin and y'all loved her. So we want to bring you all high yield, high energy people to give you what you want. So with that being said, he is a good cook, my auntie Wanda says. So with that being said, make sure that you put your questions in the chat. His rate is like mine, right? So we're here free though for you today. So make sure that you use this opportunity to ask any questions so that he can answer them. So now we know who you are. You represent school boards, you represent universities, past or present. And you're a speaker, and you love football because you introduce yourself as a coach. So we know that you love that. If there were 1 or 2 things, maybe even 3, that you would want parents to know when it comes to education and the law, what would those things be?
Well, I'm going to say this. So understand that basically the law requires that public schools provide appropriate and reasonable access to education for every child. And that's where we get into the issue about the law and education, because the question then becomes, well, what does that look like and what does that mean and what does it really mean? The overwhelming majority of children who are attending public schools attend so under a general education platform and program. Which means that there are certain matters that such as free speech and things of that nature that will come into effect with them. But by and large, they are just they behave according to plan and don't call in a bomb threat. Then they're going to go to school and everything's going to be okay. You're not going to have a whole lot of litigation or a lot of novel legal issues surrounding those students. Where we come into the law intersecting with education is when we're talking about how do you make accommodations and education accessible to students who have special learning needs and or other disabilities or challenges that are covered under what's called 504, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. So The most important thing that I want parents to understand about education and the law and education period is that regardless of whether you know exactly what to do, when you feel the need to ask a question, ask it. And when you don't get the answer you want, ask it to someone else. And keep asking it until you get a satisfactory answer. That's the most important thing that you can do. I think that applies to general ed as well as special ed, and particularly in special ed. But the biggest thing is to not make assumptions. Do not sit back and be ashamed to ask the question. Ask the question because there are a lot of resources that are available, and we need to make sure that you're taking advantage of it. Because I think the most important thing that my wife has ever shared with me that her dad wanted for her, and as we now have these three children, I think that we want for them is that at some point when we're no longer here or no longer around, we want them to be able to take care of themselves. And the biggest predictor of whether or not they'll be able to do that is whether or not they get a sufficient education. So make sure we ask the questions, get them full access to the education that we're paying for. So that's the most important thing.
Awesome. So it sounds like, if I'm understanding Coach Attorney Fred, um, what you're saying is his one piece of advice to you all is to ask the question, and then if you don't get the answer, to ask it again, and if that's not satisfactory, to ask again. And so what we call that over here on Focus on the Friday is advocate. I know we've said that at least 100 times, if not more, to advocate. And who's best to advocate for you than you? And so sometimes, though, what I found, Attorney Bolling, is that people may not know what the question is or who to ask the question. So if there is a question that has developed, I was talking to a mom last night and I was like, something else is missing. We've got to figure this out. Who is the first person that they should pose the question to?
Well, and just like many other instances, whether it's your doctor, whether it's your favorite retail outlet, when you want to really be in the know, you develop a relationship with the person who is in charge at that level. And so the very first person that you would want to develop and make sure you got a relationship with, and the first person you would ask the question of would be your child's teachers. Get to know the teachers. I know that there's a lot that goes on. I know that people are oftentimes busy. And so PTA meetings just kind of fall by the wayside between football practices and things of that nature. We kind of let that slip by because it's like, well, everything's going fine and no need. But those times and opportunities to get to know and develop a relationship with your teacher is very important because when you first have any inkling that something may not be right, you need to have a full discussion with that teacher. And oftentimes those teachers will lead you in the right direction. Even though they may not be able to address some of the issues themselves, sometimes they may not give you a direct response because there's a lot of politics in schools. But by and large, if you have a relationship, I found that those teachers will drop enough hints to make sure that you, if they can't answer it, that you are directed to the person who can.
Okay. I love it. I love it. So, I want to try to relate what Attorney Bolling is telling us to the stuff that we say every week on Focus on It Friday. And the first thing he said is to develop relationships, right? And I always talk about asking for help. And so sometimes I don't know, right? Because that's the first thing I said in that meeting today. I am not an educator. So y'all are about to say some stuff that I may have heard of, but I don't know. And then Attorney Bolling wants us to have a relationship with the teacher. And one of the things I posted on my personal Facebook account earlier this week was, teachers, call your parents when something is going well. So I see we have some teachers here. Mr. Marlon Woods, thank you for joining. And he says, yes, attend PTA meetings. But we want to have that relationship. Me, for example, my husband and I, we're all over the place. I'm subject to forget a homework assignment or anything. But, the last couple of years, thank God, because we had that relationship with the teachers and they knew what we were doing. They would say, did y'all forget? Or they'll text us, don't forget, it's y'all snack week. I forgot, honey. And we're in the Sam's and the Walmart at 11:54 trying to figure out how to get some juice to take to school. So those relationships are really important, and we do want to start with the teacher. I want to go over here to the chat. Miss Kenyatta Foster says, with the recent and some of this language we're going to have to come back and define, but I don't want the questions to get too far away from us and we miss it. So if I miss your question, just copy and paste it back because we don't want to skip anybody. But Miss Kenyatta Foster says, with the recent staffing shortages, is it okay for schools to not provide support for children with IEPs? Oh my goodness. And the principal where I was today said that he had X number of teachers out today around this holiday. Oh my goodness. So what is going on? Is that okay, Attorney Bolling?
Absolutely not. I'm going to say this, and this is one of the big challenges. You know, when we first even entered into COVID protocols about a year and a half or so ago, and we were shut down and all, there was some discussion wherein they were thinking of suspending the application of the rules under the IDEA, and that is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And that's what governs the IEPs. If you have a child who's been determined eligible under IDEA and deserves an IEP, it's governed under that act. The key components of that is that act is mandatory because it is funded by the federal government. It is a fully funded, mandated program. And so the states and the local schools receive extra funding to provide those special education services for students determined eligible under IDEA. And going back to when COVID struck, despite the challenges, despite the fact that we were closed down, despite the fact that many people did not have virtual set up, there were never any provisions made to excuse, waive, or delay what a child was to be given under IDEA. That said, we did not see as many legal challenges as I thought that we would have seen. Looks like society kind of self-regulated and controlled some of that. A lot of it, the special education departments across this state and others did a yeoman's job of trying to push out services to children. But no, whenever anything's going on as far as a shortage, even a global pandemic, to date, we have not seen anything that would waive or halt the district's requirement to provide educational services under the IEP. So, you know, that's what we kind of wring our hands about, because there are very few things that will allow a school system to be subject to lawsuits. One of the big areas is under special education and the due process that's required under that. And the other is typically federal issues surrounding discrimination and the like. Outside of those two areas, most school systems actually enjoy a broad range of immunity. So the teacher shortage, in particular, the special education teacher shortage, does pose tremendous burdens for school systems, and it raises a lot of concern, because that is an area where many school systems, even affluent school systems, are very susceptible.
And when you say immunity, you know, I'm a pediatrician at heart. Y'all didn't know that maybe. But that's my first love. So, I mean, are we giving out shots? What you talking about immunity when you're talking about the school systems have immunity?
So I guess it is sort of like the shot so the immunity in the realm of medicine, you get the shot and it supposedly, I guess, blocks the bad stuff. Bad stuff in the legal realm for school systems is, you know, the ability to be sued and the public money to be transferred into the pockets of someone who's suing you. And so much like those vaccines and immunities that you get from those shots or naturally, there is state law under Article 1, Section 14 of the Alabama Constitution of 1975 provides that the state of Alabama, nor any of its agencies or subsidiaries shall be subject to lawsuit. The exceptions come in, and the reason why special education is such an issue is because federal law, much in the way of discrimination and that sort of thing, federal law trumps the state law with regard to that immunity. So The fact that the federal government supplies money for IEPs and under the act, um, your immunity does not protect you against these federal type claims. But most other claims, they do. So if you happen to go to the football game and um, trip over the hot fish grease that they're frying up fish with at the country football game, and you burn half your leg off, you're gonna have to figure out a way to get that compensated, because the school system is not gonna likely be responsible to pay for any of that. Sometimes they do, but they're not responsible for it.
All right. That is good to know. That is good to know. So be careful when you are on the school grounds. All right, let's go over here. Somebody says, what is a 504 plan? That's Miss Betty Jeffers. And I know that we've said IEP. Can you just talk to us about what each of those are and what do those letters even mean? And why 504 instead of 205?
Okay, 504. The letters literally, like many other acts, simply refer to the actual code numbers that have been assigned to that particular act, and it's under the Rehabilitation Act, which basically protects people from being discriminated against or denied access based on their disabilities, and it's Section 504 of that act. And 504 is a generalized area that encompasses education as well as some other things, because again, you cannot discriminate against anyone. So if someone comes with a disability, you have to provide all reasonable accommodations necessary to allow the person to have full access to the services or entity that you're providing. So the Rehabilitation Act actually covers your restrooms and having access to those at public restaurants. It covers just the basic. When you see all of the city coming in, and when you have codes that when you build or remodel to a certain extent, you have to then make things accessible. All of that comes under that same act. And as it applies to schools, disabilities can range from physical disabilities such as eyesight and hearing issues, wherein you can be required as a school system or district to provide adaptive technologies. Sometimes glasses, and there may be a list of some things that are excluded. But if you think about anything that would be a reasonable accommodation to allow the student to be able to perform, but not necessarily a student who qualifies of having a learning disability under IDEA and would require an IEP. So you could have someone whose intellectual functioning is very high. You may could have someone who may even be genius level, which means that they would not necessarily qualify under the IDEA for services. But this genius level person may have very poor eyesight or be blind. And so the system would have to have a plan in place to address whatever adaptations that would be necessary for that person to be able to access the public education that they're due. It also addresses folks who may not have a learning disability or intellectual deficits, but because of some diagnosed behavioral issues, there may have to be accommodations made for those persons to, for instance, strategies to de-escalate. Behavioral plans can fall under both the IEP as well as a 504 plan. Some of the most distinctive features of the two is that the IEP is something that's required under the IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act. I believe I got that right. And the 504 is required under Rehabilitation Act. IEP qualification is based on 13 specified disability categories. Under the 504, the qualifications under it is based on a record of impairment. So if you have a doctor who has diagnosed you with ADHD, for instance, or oppositional defiance disorder, or any number of things that can cause you to then have a plan in place that will trigger certain things under 504, even if the child does not have learning deficits. The IEP is a formalized written document that has to be created, and there's a lot of um, mandated required reviews. There are forms that have to be in place. It's a lot more structured than the 504. 504 can be formal, but it's not necessarily required to be formal. You just have to accommodate and make sure that you're not doing anything that would unreasonably unreasonably interfere with that child's ability to learn. But the IEP is subject to an annual review. Um, and it can contain it should have measurable annual goals, um, um, and again, whether you qualify for it will require some testing. And I'll stop there because I'm sure there'll be some additional questions, but that's basically the
Okay,
difference.
so that was really good. So you actually answered. So Miss Betty Jeffers says, should a kid and Attorney Bolling, I don't know, can you see the comments on the screen?
I
If you look
don't
up at the
think.
top right, it says comments. If you just click that, then you can see them.
I'm on
Ah,
private
look at that.
chat,
Look at
and
that.
now I see
Okay.
comments. Here we go.
Yes. So Miss Betty Jeffers says, should a kid with ADHD have an IEP? And it sounds like, based off what you just said, not necessarily, right?
Right. It would be dependent. Like I said, the IEP is a very formalized process because there are defined categories of what is would meet the criteria, and the state sets forth metrics and guidelines, bell curves, all this numerical data and everything else that they pay all these big professionals to bring in and do, psychometrists, psychologists, all sorts of testing that peer-reviewed, evidence-based treatments and the like. But it's not necessarily that someone with ADHD is going to be required to have an IEP, because if and someone could come on and correct me if I'm wrong, but the IEP process generally deals with folks who are going to have a learning deficit. But your ADHD person could simply be, their accommodation is to make sure that the nurse is going to be there to provide a midday boost to the medicine, or they're allowed to take the medicine, or there are certain strategies where they're allowed to do certain things, maybe get more time, and that would be more properly documented on a 504 plan than necessarily IEP, because they could be a very high functioning person despite the fact that they have ADHD.
And my general thought is, if we can treat whatever you have, whether it be ADHD, ODD, whatever, if it is well controlled, then you may not need any special accommodations. And so we may not have to go to these extremes.
Right.
But, and these are not even extremes, I guess, just we would not necessarily have to take these measures. But if your child is continuing to have some challenges at school, despite our best efforts, then there are things and next steps that can be taken to make sure that they are getting what they need so that they can shine.
I want to add something though. Just something you said kind of triggered a thought that I said I wanted to make sure I expressed. A lot of times what we do are based on stigmas that we have erected ourselves, and some are societal or whatever else, and we want to stigmatize what goes on. But understand, at the base of both 504 and IEP, at the base of both of those programs is the fact that we are guaranteeing that access to the education is there for that child that needs it. So if I have a student who, because of whatever, they came here, God gave them an ability to be able to be in general ed, not have any deficiencies, not have any of those things, and they can access the education that they are due without any accommodations, then bravo. But if you need an accommodation, just like if you are a rocket scientist, but you need to go get some glasses, go get your eyewear. If you need a special chair to sit in or something because you've had back problems, disc problems as an adult, you go get that special chair or whatever else you need to accommodate that. We have to get to a point where we understand that education is the biggest transformative thing, and the biggest predictor of what type of lifestyle that child will eventually have. So let's not deny the child because we're caught up into a stigma. These plans, whether it's an IEP or a 504, they're merely aimed at addressing whatever it is that is restricting your child from fully accessing the education that they are due based on your tax dollars and everything else. So let's not talk about it in extreme. It's what's necessary for your child to do what they have to do. We go get them trained to be the best cornerback they can be, because we realize he only runs a 5.5 and he needs to run a 4.4 if he wants a scholarship. We'll take him out there and train him all day, at various places throughout the city. But now we're concerned about it being extreme when we're talking about just making sure the child can access education. We just have to change that mindset.
Right. And I like the way that one of the ladies that was running the meeting today, she said this child had a 504 plan, and she said we have done all that we can do within the parameters of this plan. This child needs more services, but I don't have access to them. We need to get a referral for special education, and they have access to all sorts of things, all sorts of people, all sorts of resources that this child was going to need. And I think that when put that way, the family said, oh, resources, people, access. Yes, let's do it. And so certainly, as Attorney Bolling has said, and we talk about this all the time, right? We've got to kind of let go of the stigma of even the name special education, because it is special, right? It's not what every other child needs, but your children aren't each alike either. Each one is special and unique. And so we have to make sure that, as they said in the meeting today, we're leveling the playing field. And so general education was designed for the general population, but there are some who are going to perform above that and some below. And we've just got to, like I always say, we got to parent the child we were given and not the one we hoped and prayed for. Absolutely. Let's go over here and see what we got. I saw, okay, so
good questions.
Oh, yeah. So let's see. My Miss My Kindness Mistaken Mika. Now, she has said a lot. I wish I had an option to bring her on so that we could kind of get where she's going, but I'll try to piece them together. She says, what guidelines should schools take for students leaving school at age 7 unattended? Any and safety guidelines. I don't know if we're talking after school. Miss My Kindness, I might need some more help on that question. She says, what if your child was just diagnosed with something and the school is responding off the diagnosis from the doctor now, but the principal and teachers knew this child had concerns years prior to the date? So what can we do about that, Attorney Bolling? So the child got the diagnosis, but the school knew something was going on with the child.
Right. And so, I'll say this, like I said, without getting too far into the weeds on it, there's several different provisions that would even require under the child fine provisions of the act. There are some things that would even require the school system to start providing services to children even younger than the K4 level, which we do in the pre-K now. It seems to be the big push. But you could actually start getting services depending on what the diagnosis are for your child. If they're having speech and language issues earlier than that, and they're not meeting certain goals and guidelines, there is a child fine provision under the act that can provide services. I want to say maybe down to even the age of 2. I'm certain that it's at least down to the age of 3, but it may even be younger than that. But then going to the other question, I think specifically, like, so if my child has started school and hey, I'm in 4th, 5th grade now, and all of a sudden I got this diagnosis, But these teachers have known something's been wrong for a while. And so now the child has missed being able to adequately perform in second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and that whole sort of thing. One of the claims that can be made under a due process violation or complaint is the fact that the child has not been investigated or evaluated for all areas of suspected disability. So if you have a child that meets certain criteria and that child's grades and everything else reflect that, and it can be shown in evidence that the school has not taken any reasonable steps and actions, that some of that can be addressed. Now, there is a statute of limitations that generally applies. And so typically you can only go back about 2 years from the time that you should have reasonably known that there was something wrong as well. But say, for instance, if you have a child that's in second grade and you're looking at his kindergarten teacher and first grade teacher who basically just shifted him along, and the kids couldn't write a letter, couldn't identify a single letter, and it was evident somehow that this child had some issues, there could be some responsibility on behalf of the school system to have previously identified that. But that is, again, goes back to having a relationship and being able to communicate with that teacher. Unfortunately, with the teacher shortages, with the overall seemingly dismissal of the importance of education in some communities, people get caught up in just living. And to be honest, if just like with nursing homes, hospitals, and everything else, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I mean, these are simple little colloquialisms, but it bears out in life. So if you are there and ever present and you're having the conversations, you're a lot less likely to be overlooked. You shouldn't be overlooked either way, but reality is what it is, and you're a lot less likely to be overlooked if you are there and having that relationship and having that communication. Because believe it or not, these teachers truly do want to educate your children and they want to see the best for them. Nobody wants to have children that are not progressing.
Right, absolutely. And that was one of the things that I appreciated about the meeting today. And for you all that missed the very beginning, I had a chance to sit in on a meeting today for a scholar where these topics came up. It's the first I've ever done in my career. And that was one of the takeaways that the lady said. We're all on team student. And I was like, yes, team student, let's go student. And so I really appreciated that. The principal was there, several people, the counselors for the school. I was there, parents were there, and everybody was go student, right? And that's really, if you look at it from that aspect, like I tell people all the time about ADHD, you may say, well, I can handle my student after school, but can your student handle themselves? Do they feel good or are they uncomfortable? Because ADHD hurts, if you will, and so does being in a school setting where for whatever reason you're not comfortable or not excelling, that hurts as well. So we want our students to be comfortable as they grow. Let's see. Somebody says really good. Oh, and I do want to say 0 down to 3, and that's across the United States. Early interventions, and every state may call theirs something different. So developmental delays and the like, speech difficulties, all of that from 0 to 3 will be taken care of by that program. And then after 3 years old, so 4 and up, your school system would help you with that. Jacqueline Jones Harold says, if your child has ADHD, should the school or your child's teacher be notified?
And I see that there was a response right up under that said, absolutely.
Ms. Ward, who is an educator, thank you for joining.
Right. Well, I will say this. That's a personal decision that I would advise that, and it's not legal advice, but just an experience. I would advise that you play that one by ear, depending on, again, the relationship that you have. You don't, if it's controlled and you have done what that you should be doing as a parent, and you have had a relationship with your physician, and you have gotten that under control, and it's not presenting and it's not an issue, it may not be anything that the teacher needs to accommodate. Because if you work and you keep and maintain that regimen of medicines, you very well will know whether or not within a day or two you'll know whether or not you're that child misses medicines and they perform a certain way and they get to a certain age. You'll know before anybody has to tell you or the teacher or anything whether or not the child will come and say, hey, we forgot today, and we know that there's an issue and whatever else. And with the little kids at football practice, I can tell the ones who skip their regimen, and it becomes obvious. But if it's well controlled, your personal health information is yours, and your child's is theirs. And if they are otherwise containing it, such that it's not a hindrance, and you don't need any further accommodations other than to take that medicine on regimen, then again, it's just your choice. And I don't know that you have to disclose it. But by all means, if you have that relationship and that trust with that educator, and you have not quite gotten it under control, you may want to, and it may be advisable to go and talk with them and say, look, we think that this may be going on. We've noted the concerns and we are trying this. We hadn't gotten it perfect yet, but let me know how it's going. And I think in many cases, the most important thing that Dr. Brandy B can get, to help her do her job even more effectively than she does currently, is that if the teachers buy into it and fully get on board with those teacher Vanderbilts and observations, because that gives those teachers see those children more often, more time than we do in it during the school year. And so they very well know how their child behaves at various different hours of the day when they need to be functioning. So, like I said, that's the importance of developing relationships so you can have that collaboration back and forth.
Attorney Bolling, you talk like you hang out around a child psychiatrist a lot or something.
Yeah, we shine a lot.
We shine. I love it. I love it. Let's see what else we got. And that's Miss Jacqueline Jones Harold. That's typically my advice too. I have all the time parents that'll say, I don't want to do that Vanderbilt. I don't want them to know. And that's perfectly fine. What on the flip side though, what is oftentimes happening is that the teacher is coming to you and is saying, he can't stand and see, she talks too much. We're failing. And so it's actually a relief to them because remember, they're team student, yay. And so it's a relief to them when you tell them, oh yeah, we found out that he or she has X, Y, and Z, and we're working on this treatment. And if you could just keep me up to date on how it's going, because the teachers, as I always say, are really our friends, and the teachers give us invaluable information when we're talking about treatment on my end. It's really helpful for me if I know, but I also understand that some parents, for whatever reason, don't want their teachers to know, and we just try to work around that as best we can. But oftentimes they're coming to you, especially in those younger kids. Miss Ryan Hinton Smith, and thank you for the question, Jacqueline. She says, what if your child broke a writing hand, what we call in medicine the dominant hand? Does the 504 cover someone to take notes?
Well, it could. But I would say this is that, again, the 504 would need to be a reasonable accommodation to be able to adjust for what is going on. I think in that instance, there's several different ways that could be accomplished. Assuming that the hand's not broke or not severed off and won't ever come back to function, I think that one thing would happen would be that if that child would be allowed to take a phone device or something into the class to be able to maybe take a picture of the notes that are on the board, or provide in the plan for the teacher for a certain period of time, would provide those notes either through email or some take home or whatever. There should be a mechanism for allowing the child to get the notes, and that should be addressed for the duration of whatever that disability is. But is it going to cover a paid person to come in there and write the notes themselves? Maybe not, because I think that in what is a reasonable accommodation is going to differ depending on different specific nuances. But in general, if note taking is required to give full access to the education benefit, then some way those notes need to be provided to the student.
Now, that. Okay, thank you, Attorney Fred, and thank you, Ryan. One of the things that came up today in the meeting I attended was that the child had transferred from another school. And at the other school, there were some resources that were available that this school did not have. And so I oftentimes, I work in the rural parts of Alabama. And so a lot of times they may not have access to something that a child may really need. And so, what should a parent do if they find themselves in a situation where their school or their area, district, region does not have what their child needs?
I'll tell you something that's very interesting. So, if your child is eligible for services under an IEP, which means that they are now covered under the IDEA, then again, this is a mandated, federally funded program. And it has not been unheard of for children to have received special education services that included private school, sometimes even out of state private school placement. Um, I don't remember the specific. I wouldn't disclose the specific name, even if I could remember it. But I don't remember specifically. But that was some time back. I know that there was an issue going around. Where there was a attorney in town here locally in Birmingham, and as I recall the story, he moved into the city limits. He enrolled his kid in the Birmingham city schools, knowing full well that they did not have what his particular child needed. His child had some significant deficiencies. And I think that child ended up at a private specialized school in the great state of Tennessee, fully paid for, because it was just not a program that could be offered there. Now, things have probably been tightened up some since then to make it somewhat more reasonable. But again, if you are required to educate a child and your child has some deficiencies that require certain services to be provided and you cannot provide them in-house, then you do provide those services wherever those services can be provided. And there are some provisions that would allow the parent to seek private placement themselves, even outside the recommendation of the system. But I would recommend going through the system and making sure that you've given the system every reasonable opportunity to meet the need first, because you don't want to go out there and say, well, hey, they told me that if they can't do it, I could always just go spend this money. But then some hearing officer down the road or some court determines down the road that, hey, yeah, but they could have offered the services. So, again, most school systems are not trying to deny you your child any benefits. Sometimes they don't know, but more likely is that someone just has not heard the right question yet. So have the conversation, let that response come back. But if it is a issue that cannot be addressed, then yes, you could possibly go and have those services provided outside the school system.
Now, Attorney Bolling,
Mhm.
you are going to get me in trouble. You are telling these people all of these secrets, and I am friends with these teachers and educators. But the people need to know this is the truth,
You're not
right?
gonna well, if that and this is I'm gonna give a disclaimer because this may not be Dr. Brandy B's comments and she may not
Yes,
endorse these comments.
these are not my comments.
But I'm gonna just say this: if the teacher is not garbage, then the teacher is not gonna have any problems with parents being fully educated on what their rights are. Teachers and educators should be there to inform the public and to educate their students. And if educating their students means that they have an informed parent base, that teacher should want that. If that teacher does not want that or have a problem with that, or is concerned about, well, hey, we can't let all these parents know this because then the special ed teachers are going to have to do extra work. If that's their philosophy, then I really wish they would just go somewhere else, because that's not what we need. And most teachers who are worth their salt, they would agree. The biggest challenge for teachers is having to deal with these unruly, uncontrolled classrooms, because you have dumped a bunch of kids that are not getting services that need to be serviced, and they're interfering and taking time away from instruction from the general population that have to meet certain goals. And then what happens? Then all of a sudden, our numbers come out, and not only of our special ed populations not being serviced according to the numbers, but now our general ed numbers are declining. And what happens when that happens? Then all of a sudden we want to run and move and run to the hills to go somewhere else where we think that they're offering something better when they're not really offering anything better. They just have a population that is not that is already either meeting the deficiency and being honest about it, and they're allowing their regular ed classes to be able to excel and not having to sit there and be burdened. So I don't think quality educators are going to have any problems with what you're saying or sharing this information.
And if that's good, because I got concerned.
If any of them come on here and start complaining about, wait, why are you telling these parents this? Then I can guarantee you, if they put their real name up here, I'm going to do everything I can to get them out of here, because they're no good for Birmingham.
Well, now we are worldwide, Attorney Bolling. We have
Birmingham, Charlotte, Phoenix, Chicago. They're not good for teaching anybody's kids if they don't want, if they're not willing to educate the parents so that the parents can help and collaborate in helping to educate the kids. They need to be out of education. Go do something else.
Yeah, and I would agree, and that's why we spend time over here at Focus on It Friday, and we've been doing this since about May of 2020. At no charge to you all. I don't ask you for anything, maybe to buy a book every once in a while, or come to a program like Mommy's Time Out, which is going to be coming up in January. But other than that, it's all free, because we really do. I want you to be educated and be informed. And what I tell my parents is, I'm going to run late because, and so if you like a doctor that's on time, I'm probably not the one, because I'm running late because somebody ahead of you had a question. And it's my job to answer it. And so if I've not answered your question, then that means that I've not done my job. And some people have too many questions, right? And so I got to bring them to Focus on It Friday or bring them back in. But we definitely want the people to be informed, and that is why we are here. It sounds like somebody is at your doorbell.
I think it's a board member.
A board member is at the door?
Possibly.
Oh my goodness. Well, don't put that board member on the spot.
I'm not going to put the board member on the spot. We're just going to get some uniforms. Come on, friendly board member that we're not going to identify.
Oh, the board member does not want to be identified?
Oh, this board member doesn't mind being identified.
Hello there, board member. Come on over and tell us. Hello there. It is Letitia Watkins. Hello,
everybody.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Brandy, for this platform, for helping to inform our parents, our children. We really appreciate you in the community.
Oh, thank you. That is
get your mind right.
That is our board member for here in Birmingham. See how we love the community. She's absolutely awesome too. So yeah, she supports Focus on It Friday, and Dr. Brandon. That's why I told this man he can't be talking about these people like me. Let me get back over here, y'all, because let's see what else we got to talk about. It's some more stuff. Y'all got all kind of questions. Okay, somebody said that they could not hear Attorney Bolling earlier. Has that been cleared up? I'm looking like y'all gonna answer. Write it in the chat if you can hear Attorney Bolling. I want to make sure that you can hear him.
All right. If they can't hear me, they should have clicked off by now. All the talking.
Let's see what people are loving the tag team. Yes. Okay. So Auntie Julia, thank you for watching. She was one of the ones who couldn't hear you. She says yes, she can hear you. All right, awesome. So people can hear. My cousin Clarence 3. Thank you, cousin Clarence. He reached out to me yesterday. My cousin, I just have some amazing people in my corner. Y'all just don't know all the people that prop Dr. Brandy up, because every once in a while I'm like a 3-legged stool, and a leg is a little bit shorter, and then there comes somebody out of the randomness to just feel right back in, and he was that person yesterday. So thank you for being what you're gonna be. All right, let's see. Or what you've been. Not gonna be. It's gonna be too. All right. Let's see who we got here.
Hey, Brenda Rodriguez.
Miss My Kindness. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, Miss My Kindness says, what are your rights? Okay, we talked about that. We talked about that. Miss Deidre.
And let me address that briefly. So
what's that?
your rights as regarding to the IEP and 504, we've kind of touched on your rights as a parent, as a student in large. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, just about every school system has most of their manuals, policies, procedures, student code of conduct, all that stuff online. Okay. I once heard something, I think this was maybe in the early 90s, when they said, if you want somebody to be misinformed about something, then put the truth down in a book, because people just not going to read. And I'm telling you, I know there's a lot coming at you, a lot of stuff to do, but if you want to play a game well, you learn the rules of the game. And so with regard to what your rights are, most rights that you're going to have are going to be written down somewhere. Otherwise, they would not be your rights. So I would say, when you got an issue that comes up, go online, check the school's policies, check the school's code of conduct, and hold them to it. Because, and I'm going to tell you, a lot of times, the very folks that are attempting to do something or exercise certain actions against your child, you'd be surprised at how many of them have never actually opened up that policy book or read it. So, get informed. And like I said, communication in those relationships go a long, long way. Even the reading is fine, but even just having a relationship, you'll learn a whole lot. But your rights are out there, and they're known. And if you got a specific question, drop it in. We'll try to address that. If we don't know it right now, we'll try to get it back to you. I think Jackie says, what does it mean for a teacher to be certified? Well, in the state of Alabama, for a teacher to be certified, that means that they have passed all the requirements that the State Board of Education has set forth for receiving a teacher certificate. And that teacher certificate, depending on when they received it, it may have required a praxis exam to be passed. It may have required several other different things depending on when they got it. It generally requires a certain level of formal education. They are doing something a little bit different, I believe, understanding now, in that I think they're trying to phase out the whole idea of praxis. But we'll try to focus more on making the process of education in the schools through colleges more strenuous. So there may be some tests similar to like what they do in the medical field. So you may have to pass certain steps and tests in college in order to move to the next step. And so when you finish school, there won't be an additional test to take. They tend to fluctuate back and forth on how they're going to do that. The thing that's scary to me is that there's a lot of discussion in this year about how to address the teacher shortage. And what's scary to me is that it seems that a lot of people are signing on to the fact that people with just real life experiences, we're going to just put them in the classroom without any necessarily formal training or requirement for tests and the like. So when you say that, should you be concerned if a teacher is not certified and they're teaching a course subject, then the answer is yes and no. And that answer is going to probably be more dependent on the relationship you have with the teacher and finding out, because there could be somebody who is an excellent math teacher who has test taking anxieties and have never overcome that, and could probably be the best math teacher ever. The certifications and everything else is really meant to give you a floor. It's not going to be a answer in all circumstances, because there are some people who can take tests very well, but they are horrible at executing their jobs. So even that, if somebody is I can promise you there is a highly qualified teacher with every certification that is known to man, and who's getting that STEM bump of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 additional pay. And I can promise you somewhere there's a teacher with all of that who is horrible. And by the same stretch, there may be a teacher who does not have all those certifications, who takes the job seriously and really works hard. At a base, I would say that we need to have certified teachers. I think that, because by and large, if the teacher can't get certified, that's probably a sign that teacher's not excellent. But it's going to be case by case, and your level of concern should kind of be based on what your relationship and knowledge of that teacher is.
Awesome, awesome. I was trying to look for a book here. Attorney Bolling mentioned that we need to read. And I always tease him when he's writing legal documents. I call it the here now come thither. That's what it all looks like to me. I'm like, why does everything need to start out like I'm writing to these old men from afar with this white wig turned up? That's what it feels like when I'm reading that. But if you are in Alabama or not, there is ADAP. Write this down, ADAP. It's the Alabama Disabilities Advocacy Program. They are based out of Tuscaloosa, and they provide, they are advocates for students who have special needs. When you go to their page, their website, there is a book that is many years old, maybe like 2013 or 12 or so, but the information is still very relevant and I think accurate. I'm assuming up to date. But the name of the book is Special Education in Alabama, A Right, Not a Privilege. And that book walks you through everything that that Attorney Bolling is mentioning here. Even if you needed to print the book, I was looking for my copy. I don't know where it is. Y'all know my office is a mess. But even if you needed to print it, I think it's probably 100 pages. And it walks you through what is a 504, what qualifies under 504, what is an IEP, what qualifies under an IEP, what steps do I need to take. There are even templates in the back of the book that you can just plug and play. My name is blank. I'm the guardian of blank. And so when you're talking about wanting to get the IEP or have your child tested or whatever it is that you're needing, that book walks you through beginning to end, everything to do with special education. And Attorney Bolling, correct me if I am wrong, 504 plans and IEPs. These are universal, right? So it's not just for people who live in Alabama. Is that correct?
No. Yeah, those are federal statutes that apply. Now they apply differently because under the act, most like many other acts, the federal government sets out what the bare minimum standards are, which you cannot fall below. These are the guaranteed rights. You can offer more, but you cannot offer less than this. And so with that, a lot of times the government does not fill in the procedures and practices, and it leaves it to the state to set forth your procedures and practices on how you guarantee the rights. So that will vary from state to state, but the guarantees that are provided are federally based. And with regard to IEP and what is required under those and the IDEA, there's a case, Endrew, ENDREW. If you put that case in, that name into Google, it'll pull the case up and it'll tell you essentially what it is. Because it also does not guarantee that your child is going to succeed on the IEP. It just requires that the school district provide an IEP that's reasonably calculated to allow the child to take advantage of their education. It still requires, so if you're a child with a special need, even the advocating for them and getting the IEP, that's going to help a lot. But understand, just like us parents of general ed kids or high performing kids, we still have to sit up there and sometimes to the wee hours, grind it out and help assist. Even though you have an IEP, there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, it's a lot. It's a 24-hour process trying to help educate kids. Well, 16, 17-hour process because they're sleeping at some point. But it's a process to educate these kids and get them where they need to go. So, you know, but I know it's frustrating when you're looking and you don't have the tools. But when you get the tools, work with the teachers, and let's get these babies where they need to be.
Oh man, that sounds like something I might have said. I think
yes.
No. Okay, all right. Let me see. Let me go back. Somebody I just saw said they are on cloud 9. Oh my goodness, we are bringing sunshine to the people. All right, now let's see. Y'all still hanging in there. Y'all are not going anywhere. So we're gonna try to stay here until that little girl comes because she'll be home and y'all know she's loud. Let's see what we got. Miss Quatis Garrett says, yes, sir, Attorney Bolling. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's Attorney Quatis Garrett. Thank you for watching and joining. Now, Kalu, Fred, Attorney Bolling, that is Colin's mom. And
I know who that is.
Yeah, she says, this is Colin's Cottrell mom. Yes, Collins was diagnosed with ADD and he has an IEP. We found out in the 4th grade year. He was tested, took several tests for hearing, eye, speech. With that information, I walked to all of his teachers and we came up with a plan. He has short-term memory loss. It takes him longer to comprehend and understand. So he needs accommodations. I advocate for him on all levels. I ask if his teachers are certified to teach with his challenge. And so it sounds like the A word is advocate. The A word is advocate. The other A word is ask. Ask for help, right? Because if you don't know, there are things I don't know, right? And so listen, that's why my circle is made up of people of all walks of life, because we all have something to add. It doesn't matter that I'm a physician and that Attorney Fred is an attorney. We still need people who are mechanics, right? We still need people who do all sorts of things. And so we team up with them and ask them. Miss Shelley Stutter says she's going to have to come back and rewatch. She must have been sneaking off at lunch. Come on back, girl, and have some fun. Early intervention, 0 to 3. Thank you. That's Dr. Michelle. Is that Dr. Michelle Scott Shorts? Yeah. She says, hello, everyone. Quati says her daughter started getting evaluated for speech at 2.5 and participated in the early intervention program. Let's see. Collins' mom says that is true. The teachers Collins had notified me early in kindergarten that something was going on. They started talking about ADHD, but in the meantime, they observed and talked at every marking period. So stay in contact with your teachers. Miss Deidre says she's coming back to say, yes, not necessary to share, but from her experience as a parent and an educator, she would disclose it to the teacher so that they could collaborate to make the best decision. And I agree. And I just always say parents will come to me and say, I want to get my child on disability for their ADHD. And, you know, I'm like, if they ask me, is your child disabled, when your child can get treatment and nobody knows that they're being treated or that they have a problem, you know, I just kind of struggle with whether or not they're disabled. But what people do is not my business. So, hey, go and get do what you got to do to help yourself out. Miss Deidre says, power team. And Auntie Julia is clapping. Jackie Jones says, what does it mean? Exactly. We would stress that. Okay, Nicole McCann, little Nikki, she says, I had to leave a school because the teachers and the principals did not like me advocating for my child. That sounds like what Attorney Bolling was talking about. We found another school that has been more than supportive and welcomed me, knowing all of my paternal rights and offering my thoughts on what worked for my child as well. They are not offended or bothered by my desire to look out for what's best for my child. And that is absolutely the place you want to be. One of the questions I asked today of the guardians was, hey, I'm here as a child's doctor, and I know that the child is not here. And we think we're doing what's best for the child, what we think is best based off our areas of expertise. But did the child send any indication about what it is that they want? So make sure that when we're involving everybody else, we get the opinion of the child.
I was going to add one other thing to that. And because, again, it kind of goes counter to what I said. You know, most of these teachers want to make sure it's working and they don't mind your interventions and advocacy. And I would imagine that in that situation where the teachers and the principals did not want the advice, just like I said before, like I said, these are not the comments of Dr. Brandy B, but the comments of Attorney Fred Bolling, who has been in education in this arena, education law, for about 20 years. There are a lot of politics in education. And oftentimes the folks that, and as I said, sometimes relationships and whatnot are not necessarily always combative, but you just got to understand who you're dealing with in your particular school, because not everybody's going to be able to move. And just understand that everybody that gets promoted to leadership is not leadership material. Everybody gets promoted to leadership does not necessarily know what to do. So oftentimes the ones I've found that were resistant to children knowing their rights is probably because at the point that I know that I've identified and agreed with you that the child has an issue, then it's incumbent upon me to fix it. And if I don't know how the hell to fix it, of course I don't want it to be identified. So again, never back off the advocacy part. Make and mandate that these people provide you with the type of educators and leaders that you need in your school setting to maximize your child and every other child in that school's abilities. Because again, they don't stop advocating for increased pay, and I'm for it. They should get it. But when we increase the pay, we ought to also be getting the best for our money. You don't pay $10,000 to go get a purse from Walmart. If you're gonna pay $10,000 for a purse, I think you're gonna want that Birkin or whatever that is. Thank God my wife doesn't really like those. But again, if we're gonna, and I don't mind teachers' pay going up wherever it needs to go, but once we take it up there, we need to make sure that the product we're getting is Birkin quality and not the Walmart purse. Absolutely. And I don't know, Walmart purses may be good too. I'm not sure.
I don't know about their purses, but I do like their clothes.
Right.
Let me ask you, Attorney Bolling, we're going to try to wrap this thing up. The people are still here, which means that they are hungry for this knowledge. But what happens, Attorney Bolling, when the parent does not want these special services and the school is like, but we cannot spend, as this person said today, 80% of their day redirecting this child back to class, away from danger. And the parents are like, we don't see nothing wrong. We don't have these problems at the house. What can the school do? Do the parents have any rights to say we don't want that?
Well, this is the thing, is that the school has to provide the education, and they have to provide an IEP aimed at providing those services. Now, this is where the tricky part comes in, is that in order to be evaluated and tested, parents have to sign a consent form. Okay. And I've often had folks wonder, because when it gets to a certain point, people say that they don't really want that smoke. When you start dropping names and talking about involving processes, a lot of times parents who are reluctant or who are not bringing the kid in or fully participating, once you start to turn the pressure, a lot of times those folks will fall in line and go ahead and sign off. They don't want to necessarily, but they'll sign off on it. But that said, I've often wondered what happens when it requires the parent to sign off on it, but everyone on the team understands and knows that there's something going on that needs to be addressed. The advice I typically would give to my clients, because like I said, I typically represent school boards in that situation, so I'm not advocating for the parents in my legal work with the systems. But what I always, and I try to marry both, because I think I could protect the system and at the same time allow for advocacy to the parents. I just try to get some strategies that would keep us from getting to a point where we have to pay attorney's fees, because we find ourselves in due process complaints. But I think the biggest thing for the educators at that point is to make sure they've documented all of their efforts and everything else and notate what the parents are refusing to do. I also am a bit of a rebel, and I believe in taking it to the extreme when it comes to the children. And I would dare say that if a child's parent who is faced with significant delays or deficiencies, and it's clear that the educational system knows and understands that that child needs certain services in order to benefit from education, and the parent stubbornly refuses to sign off on it, if I were in education, I probably would contact DHR. If we can contact the court system about them skipping school and being truant, I don't see why we should not be able to invoke the court system if we got a situation where the kid may physically be there, but because the parent's not doing what's necessary to help their kid access education, he might as well not be there. Maybe truancy by neglect. That's not a legal theory that I've ever heard advanced, but I would imagine that that's what I would do, because again, if that parent is standing in the way of their child developing, I don't know how that's would be considered abuse. But I'm sure DHR doesn't want to hear any new theories and put any extra work.
Make it work for them.
Right.
They don't have anywhere to put these kids. So
right.
All right, let's see. Tell me about Attorney Bolling, and this may be outside of what you're comfortable with, and you can tell me, but college, IEPs, 504s, do they have those in college?
They certainly have accommodations in college. So 504 in the Rehabilitation Act, and that may actually be a separate, because like I said, 504 is simply the code section under the act. So there may actually be another code section that implicates specifically education at the college level for public universities and the like. But I am aware that if you have certain deficiencies or disabilities, that they do have to provide reasonable accommodations. I personally know in law school, even, and I was in a private law school that, well, I actually know how it was public. But there was a student who would get about 3 times the amount of time to take the test as us other students because they did have some diagnosed issues. And I believe that person's was under a 504 plan. But I'm not 100% sure about the IDEA.
Okay. And I have written several letters for students for all sorts of things. I've written letters for students to be in gender specific dorms. I've written letters for children to have, to express my diagnosis. And then that went along with whatever they had already in high school, IEP 504. Between that and my letter, they were given accommodations as well. Let's see. Okay, let's see. We're gonna get out of here because I know Attorney Bolling, y'all, he'll get restless on me.
Just like I said, when we found I was finding the answer. I told you if you got it right, it's written down somewhere. So I did a quick Google search of whether or not the IDEA applies in IEPs, and it says that it does not go beyond high school.
Okay. Now, but most colleges now are going to have some accommodation.
But that's what I was going to say, though, is that the Rehabilitation Act, though, goes and covers access to education due to disability. So that naturally makes sense because typically if you have an educational deficiency, college is something that you kind of test into. It's not necessary. Basic education that you're guaranteed is K through 12. You don't have a right to attend higher education. And then especially when you start talking about these other degree programs and that sort of thing. So access to it, but not necessarily guaranteeing you that public access right. And so since that is typically K through 12, then the fact that the IDEA does not apply once you leave high school makes some sense.
Awesome. All right, let's see. Amen, Attorney B. Mommy timeout. She said, yeah, y'all ought to put it in your mind. Go ahead and get ready now. Mommy's time out. It was amazing last year. Yeah, last year. We're going to move it to January. It was amazing. I'll tell you more about that. Let's see. But just go ahead and get it in your mind. You want to be there. If you're a woman, you want to be there. I don't care how old your kids are. Let's see. Keena says this has been some great information. Auntie Eva says that was very good information. Let's see. Kalu says my issue with BCS is that there needs to be a school specifically for children with learning challenges. This is my opinion. These children are grouped into classrooms where they are not comfortable and cannot learn because the materials are taught on a fast-paced merit system. The students really feel some type of way. Some of the teachers are not specialized or certified to teach our students, and it does make a difference. I wanted to support my son in the classroom, but was referred to, it cut off on me, but was referred to services that were simply not available. He did not get the support he needed. For one, there were too many students in the classroom. What rights do parents have to support their child in the classroom?
Well, again, if your IEP specifies certain services to be done, if the system can't provide those services, now this is the difficulty: is that the system is responsible for paying for and providing those services, whether they can provide them or it has to be provided outside. Some of the concerns that we're running into at this point is that honestly, there's just not enough providers across the board. Recently, I've dealt with a matter wherein there's a facility here in Birmingham that is very proficient and good with regard to children who are autistic or maybe nonverbal. And of course, we have a significant number of people apparently who need those services. Well, that facility knew back in maybe May that they would not have any spaces available for this upcoming year. And I think they're the only facility that I'm aware of in this area that provides that, maybe in this state. And so what happens if you have a kid that under the IEP really should be at a facility like that and receiving treatment, and the district's doesn't have a problem paying for it, but you're going to have to figure out and find out where that could be. And like I said, so, and there are a lot of catch-22s, because the school system is not going to be held responsible if they are not denying the services, but simply don't have the ability to offer it. And they're saying we agree to pay for it, but we can't find anyone to do it. So we gotta advocate on all levels, and we gotta understand that in addition to all of the other things that we'd like to see done, sometimes just who gets to be president or mayor or whoever else is not necessarily the biggest thing that we need to advocate. Sometimes we need to put something on these people's desks to have some common sense laws and some money made available to address what we really know is really hampering our kids from learning. Because who's in the White House, to be honest, is not what's keeping little Johnny right now. Now, once little Johnny get ready to go to college, there's a different fight, because there may be some things in place that are keeping him from being able to achieve at that point. But there's some basic stuff that we need to hold our leaders accountable for. And how many tickets or whatever else they can provide us to an event is not one of those things that we should be holding them accountable for. Let's hold them accountable for the things that are important.
I like it. Y'all, I forgot I had this feature. Erica Harris, my sister, says, I'm on cloud 9 with this excellent information. Yay, Team B. She says, yay, Team B. All right. Let's see. Let me pull it off how to do that. The Bollings are in the blessing business, says our cousin Alethea. She always comes and hangs out with me on Friday. I appreciate you.
Hey, cousin Poochie.
Oh, Lord, you done called her. But she got her government name on here, and there you go, calling her.
Whatever. That's my Poochie.
All right. Great work. And this is exactly what I wanted for my child, because I was very involved and I needed to be accepted because of my investment. Absolutely. Nicole says some people are just ignorant. I think she made this when you were saying about the teachers who didn't want to do. She said some of them are just ignorant, egotistical, and narcissistic. My God, that's a trio for you. People who shouldn't be running a school or teaching students. All right. And we know that they're running schools, but I can't be talking about them people. All right, let's see who else we got. Callu says, this is a great question concerning college. A friend of mine graduated with 2 degrees and he was dyslexic. I had someone in my med school class the same way. Mr. Marlin says, thank you guys for this. I didn't know that some 504s follow you to college. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I am writing letters. So that's something you want to make sure. Writing letters, y'all, for us is a pain. It is a pain. So if you come and see me, you better be thanking my nurses, the secretary, and everybody else, because they are writing for me, honey, and I am just looking over them and signing them and giving them corrections, because that right there gives me $0 with the population that I serve. That's the Medicaid population. I don't get paid for that. And it doesn't matter that I don't get paid, but what does matter is that I'm trying to see more kids. So if I got to write a letter, just know that what looks like a piece of paper to you was a huge deal for us to get out that whole process. So I saw Dia on here earlier. So make sure you thank Dia when you see her, if you see me in private practice. Quatee says vocational rehab services offer services that can help college students. I think Attorney Bolling said that. Agreed, says Jessamine. Mom's Day Out. Look at that right there. Mom's Day Out was awesome. Jessamine came over and stopped by. And so y'all want to, these will be my commercials. So when you see it again, don't act shocked. You put it on the World Wide Web. Jacqueline Jones says, why is there a limited number of school counselors in K-8 schools presently? Who is the resource if a counselor is not available? Ooh, y'all gonna get me fat. I'll be talking to these schools and y'all cutting up.
I got you. But it's not. So in this question, this is not the school's fault. The way education and schools are staffed now there are some people who are more efficient and better at staffing patterns than others. And again, I keep telling you that always going to be in some instances, and I think it's the minority of instances where there'll be politics being played. But by and large, school staffing depends on the number of units assigned by the state. Depending on the number of students who attend a certain school system or a certain school, the state gives certain number of units for that school. So when you start talking about a number of assistant principals, the number of principals, the number of teachers, how many courses that can be offered, a lot of this is driven by the number of people who are in attendance at the schools. That's why when they talk about that first, I think it's the first 10 days, first 7 days, first 14 days, whatever it is, that first day where they take your calculations of how many students in the system, that's why it's a big push to make sure you get the kids in the system. There are systems that surround Birmingham, and I'll just use Birmingham for now because that's where we are. Systems that surround Birmingham who don't have a problem with counselors. There are systems that surround Birmingham that, I'll take a side note, when I was sitting on the bench for a year and a half at Family Court, I did what was called the Vasquez docket, which covered folks who were truant from school and were not approaching school. And there's actually a state law in Alabama that can get you thrown in jail for not having your child attend school. Well, one of our surrounding areas, I would always get a couple of the same people that would come in, and they would have a caseload of maybe 40 different kids who were not attending schools in various schools in Birmingham. Well, I had this one system that was in Jefferson County, so it was under our purview. I only saw in that year and a half, I only saw that system one time in court. And the one time I saw them in court, when I walked in, I thought I had a full docket, despite the fact that my docket said only like 2 or 3 people. And why is that? Because this one child that had a truancy issue had about 10 people in court that had did various stages of interventions with the family and everything else. That's because that system, the community, the local businesses, the parent, the property taxes, and everything else that's necessary to come into play to make a school have the resources that's needed, that system had it. Our systems, unfortunately, we're stretched thin because we want to run to the hills to go and get what we think is a better education elsewhere, when it's the same exact curriculum, the same books and everything else. And in large part, Birmingham City has the teachers in most respects that are highly qualified, just like other systems. The issues that we really face is that we look at statistical numbers and statistical data. Well, if our best and brightest is always running for the hills, we're helping somebody else's stats. But it's not really a true reflection of whether or not our schools are adequate and able to educate our kids. It's a function of, at some point, we have to just really start making a true assessment of what is and what our values are going to be, and whether or not we're going to pour into making sure that we see ourselves in the way that we know we are, and stop letting other folks define us by their standards. So I know that's a long way, and some of that was some of my soapbox, but in honesty, Jackie, and I think this was an answer to Jackie's question, the counselors are somewhat limited because, again, you are assigned personnel based on the units that you get that the state covers. You know, I see also that we spent some money recently from different government agencies and sources to fund things that are not necessarily government functions. So I guess the next time we start asking for something for education, and we look at the need for increased counselors, and I think we do need more counselors to help guide some of these kids. I think when we put that petition together, there needs to be 10,000 parents from Birmingham City Schools demanding that, at a minimum, Birmingham City gets $5 million for counselors and whatever other supports we need, similar to the way that the World Games private organization got it. And that said, understand, I am a big supporter of the city of Birmingham. I am a big supporter of the mayor's office. I have confidence and faith in our mayor, Randall Wolfen, and his staff. I think they're excellent. But that being said, I'm very pro kids, and I'm very pro Birmingham City Schools. And so I want us to start acting like and being what we are capable of being. So, but you got to get out there and support. When you want something done and you want people to stick their necks on the line to make bold moves and decisions, you have to show them that you're going to be there to support them and help push them through, because they're going to get pushback. Nobody wants to see Birmingham City Schools succeed. The outside world does not.
Attorney Bolling, I tell you, you just gonna get me in trouble. Everywhere now you gonna have the mayor mad. Everybody gonna be mad. But yeah, I will say this:
but God will be pleased.
Oh yeah, he will, because he likes the truth. That's what he likes, right? And we are all about truth over here. We don't typically sugarcoat anything else. I guess why would we start today? But I do want to say too another thing, Jackie. Sometimes there's shortages all around. You know, whenever I say to somebody and they're like, "I want to go to medical school," the first thing I say is, "Are you coming to help me?" Nobody wants to go into psychiatry, and I don't blame them, because before I decided to go into psychiatry, I thought they were weird and ugly. And look at me, honey. There is nothing weird or ugly about me. Right. And so we've got to make sure that we're encouraging people. I'm on several different Facebook groups, and one of them is a Facebook group of Black female physicians. And someone posted, "Oh my God, help me. What do I tell my daughter? She just told me she wants to be a teacher." And we were like, "What's the problem?" And she went on to say she's not going to have money. She's not going to do this. And we were like, wait a minute. Let's look at this thing, right? And so we have to make sure that we are bringing up the next generation of people that are truly interested, have a heart for this. And I'll be the first one to tell anybody, psychiatry has been truly good to me. So if you got somebody going to medical school, you better tell them to call me, because, honey, this is where it is, right? But I get to help people. I get to see change in a month's time. This is so very rewarding, the work that I get to do. And I'm just so grateful to my mentor, Dr. Jacqueline Stewart, for just giving me the suggestion to find a subspecialty. So we've got to make sure that we're encouraging people, social work. And I don't know if you get to being a school counselor, if you can do it being a social worker, or if they are all educators, and maybe one of the educators on the line can tell me about that. But we've got to make sure that we're encouraging people to go into education, right? I didn't get to where I am except that I had a kindergarten teacher, a first grade teacher, Miss Mason, my 5th grade teacher, Miss Johnson, my 10th grade teacher, so many others in medical school. Teachers got me where I am, right? I didn't just wake up one day and my mama birthed a physician. No, teachers got me where I am. So we certainly don't want anybody to think that we're bashing them. We just want to hold everybody accountable. Like I get to be held accountable, like Attorney Bolling gets to be held accountable. And so if everybody's being held accountable and everybody's doing their job, then it's just going to be a better place. And I know some people say, well, I don't make enough money. Nobody ever thinks they make enough money. But I'm here because I'm on assignment. That's why I get to volunteer this time, because I'm on assignment. And the money that I get, or the pay that I get, actually didn't go into my bank account all the time. But I'm sure that my teachers, when I go up to Miss Johnson at the Slutty Vegan open house, or when I'm grand opening, to run up to her and say, oh my God, you know, I'm sure that that is so very rewarding. So make sure that you all don't forget that. Auntie Wanda says she can't share. Is anybody having that problem? Let's do a test. Let's push share. Can we share it? Can you share it? I see share down at my arrow. Anybody else? Can you share it? Let's see who can share the quickest. Y'all know I love to have you share, because that's how we get visibility, right? And so I appreciate that you do that. Miss Shirley Ware, she says Team Bolling. Yes, yes, yes. We are a team. And sometimes our kids probably don't like that, and they may not like it more in the future, but we actually are a team. Oh, that's the wrong one. We actually are a team, and we appreciate that. Jacqueline Jones says, very valuable information. Excellent question. Priscilla, Lord, how we an hour late and you still an hour late? Oh, Jesus. All right. Can I help, Dr. Jackie says, can I help BCS? And in fact, I'm glad you asked that question. I have been, Jackie, going into the schools and doing some professional development with several of the schools. I can probably think of at least 6 that have already brought me in. Schools outside of Birmingham as well, because here's the deal. the teachers are longing for information, just like y'all are on here like, oh my God, help us. The teachers don't really know what it is that I have in my toolbox, the diagnoses. What do they mean? I mean, everybody knows that ADHD is always on the go, but they don't necessarily recognize that the girl who's just sitting in her desk that they think just talks too much and she's still making good grades, they may not pick up on that, or they may not pick up on the child who seems overly anxious. But when parents are like, well, they ain't anxious on the weekend, you know, and so that's part of what I've been doing and will continue to do, to help the teachers, from my perspective, know what these medications are, and to encourage them to not say things to students like, yeah, I wouldn't be taking this, you know, just in general, not speaking on things that we don't know about, because it's a lot we don't know. And so that's what I have been doing, Jackie. So if your school, your student school, if you have a student, Jackie, in Birmingham City Schools, and you feel like they need this type of education, Attorney Bolling is available for some contractual work, as is Dr. Brandy B. Y'all know we got 3 kids and they're going to all be in college at the same time, a senior, a junior, and a freshman. So we will work for food. Yes, we will. Calhoun says education across the board needs to be revamped. Change is good. Some folks do not want to change, but we as parents can make the change. And absolutely, there was somebody who said, be the change you want to see. I can't think of who that person was. I bet my husband knows. Who was that, Fred?
What was that?
Be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see.
Other than Michael Jackson?
Yeah, he said make a change, but he knows something.
Start with the man in the mirror.
No, well, he did say that. But yes, Keena says she shared it. Okay, so thank you, Keena. Ada Elizabeth O'Neill, I don't recognize that name. Welcome. She says, hey, why would teachers say that they don't think my child needs speech or an IEP? What would be the best way to address it? So again, that's just like if I diagnose a child as having autism or being autistic. Sometimes I get pushback because people have in their mind what they think autism looks like, what they think ADHD looks like. And the same with speech. They have in their mind that they know exactly what a speech or language disorder would sound like, when in fact it's a spectrum as well. I don't see my niece Amber on here, who is in her 2nd year of getting her master's in speech language pathology at Jackson State. But it's a spectrum. And so what you would need to do, if you feel like that is necessary, write the request. Look at my husband. We are just wearing him out. Write the request.
Well, I think we done set a record for your, I mean, these things run like 25 minutes.
No, we always go long. You know, these people, they like to hear me talking because it's good information. Because where else do you all get this information? Name it. I'll wait. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. No, I'm good with you. Put in the chat though, y'all, for real. Where is someone coming to you every week with high quality information, just breaking it down to you? Where can you get this? I'm gonna just see. Just if it's nowhere, put nowhere. Only here. Just you. Let me know. What are you thinking? All right. Because so the Bible, I think, talks about people being thirsty for knowledge. They want knowledge. People want knowledge. They want to be educated, but they don't know where to go find it, which is one of the first questions I laid out with. How do they find it? And so that is that's what we're doing here. That is part of our ministry, and we ain't nowhere near ministers, honey, because we be cutting up in here. But that is our ministry, to share what it is that God has given us. That right? And I was thinking about that one day, and I'm gonna get back to what we're talking about and then wrap us up. But I was thinking about it. People always think about to whom much is given, much is required as money. And it just hit me one day like a ton of bricks. I've been given this gift with mental health, and the requirement is great. And that's why I'm here with you all. That's why I'm here with you all, because I've been given something and I have to, by requirement, give it back to you all. Jackie says, thank you. Hopefully that answered your question, Miss Ada. Let me know if it didn't. Jackie and Priscilla are trying to have some sort of conversation on the side. That's what they do. Callie says, only you, nowhere else, nowhere, only you, nowhere. Okay. So that's why we're here, right? And so the fact, Attorney Bolling, they know what ADHD is, but they don't know about the law as related to it. So what this means, Attorney Bolling, is that you're going to have to come back. We have thoroughly enjoyed you today. We really appreciate you for taking time out to come hang out with us. Fred was teaching and preaching today. And preaching. You know, he always gets asked, is he what's that man name out of Texas, I believe, the Potter's house. What's Bishop, whatever, what's his name? Because you bald headed, I'm sure. Y'all don't otherwise look alike.
TD Jakes?
Yeah, you know people that.
Oh, yeah, I do.
And he always, if he got on a bow tie, they gonna always ask him, are you a preacher? Ada says, I'm Samuel's mom. He has an IEP in place, but the teacher is saying that she doesn't see speech problems. His teacher is not a speech therapist. Nothing against her, but she is not a trained speech language pathologist. So you need to I always tell my family, put the request in writing. Put it in writing and give it to all the people that need to know that. All right. So any closing words, Attorney Fred? You've given us all kinds of words, but any closing words today?
No, I think the last thing you just said about putting in writing is an important thing too. Like I said, the communication, the relationship, because like I said, even when teachers just don't know, having that relationship and there's a back and forth there. I mean, I can't tell you how much stuff I've actually learned by simply listening to my 3, 6, and 7-year-old. And folks was like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean you're learning from them? But you learn because you know, our talents are much is given, is not given. It's not something that we just went and picked up off a tree. I mean, God gives it to us. And so if there are relationships that are in your life, you're going to learn from them. So develop a relationship, learn, have the exchange. With regard to the teacher, hey, respectfully, I disagree. I think the child is having this. This is my concerns. But then put it in writing, because once you put it in writing, it has to be dealt with. Cannot be brushed aside. And can I say, well, nobody ever told me that, you know, he said, she said. Put it in writing. And again, if you don't get the answer at the first place, find somebody else to tell. And you say, well, who do I go to? Well, I can tell you this, another little secret that's probably posted on most schools' websites. If you go to the school system's website, there's probably a organization or hierarchy chart somewhere. Okay. And so it's going to tell you all the different departments. It's going to give you the name, probably the telephone number or email address of who is the director of that department. So if you don't get the answer at one level, keep going up that chart. Additionally, all documents, these school boards and all and the like are public entities. Okay. And as a member of the public, you can't interfere with their day-to-day operations. But if there is a document that is kept in the regular course of business, you can simply have a public records request on almost any subject matter that you can think of that they have to maintain in the regular course of business. And so you can find out who you need to talk to. And like I said, you make enough, not noise, but if you just show that you have concern and you keep those communications going, you'll eventually get to what you need from the system. And if not, there are some resources that can provide you some outside legal pressures. But I would be careful in dealing with them. Don't run to some of these attorneys as a first option, because some of them are simply there to regurgitate the same complaints, and they don't anymore care about your children learning than anyone. They're there simply to try to peel off $4,000 or $5,000 in a settlement, because they will offer the same complaint for every child, no matter who it is. Sometimes even leaving the same kid's information across. I'll tell one quick funny thing of one that I just dealt with yesterday without revealing who. We got in, and the parent was offered services of some tutoring services, and the district just offered 2 hours a week of services to be paid for by the district. In addition to being paid for by the district was going to pay for mileage for the parent to get the child to and from the tutoring services. So the parent has a complaint that was filed by the attorney that was representing them. And in the complaint, the parent indicated in her request for relief what she thought was fair and necessary compensation was that she get private tutoring. And she required private tutoring, and her suggestion to the court was that the court order 3 to 4 hours of private tutoring. So between 3 to 4 hours. Well, now the district had already promised her and asked her to agree to and start 2 hours a week. She didn't ever ask the district, well, hey, I think I need 3. But on the advice of we've eventually found out that on the advice of the attorney, she didn't want to disclose it at first. The attorney told her that 1 to 2 hours, that 2 hours was not enough, but 3 to 4 would be for a week. And also told her without any evidence or base of knowledge that a particular provider was not going to be sufficient. But in 4 months of dealing with the case, the attorney nor the lady had identified anyone else who would provide the counseling, the tutoring. And so as we sat in the hearing, it was finally revealed that on the basis of the attorney, she cut off the district's opportunity and that could have been given his child services for the last 2 months, and already beginning to address it. And had she asked the district for an additional hour or 2 per week, it would have been given. In addition, the district offered some other stuff during the summer that she refused to accept, all because this attorney said that they should not do it. And why should they not do it? Because the attorney was going to simply request an additional hour more, none of the compensatory services, but he was asking for $400 an hour for his work, which was going to come out to about a $4,000 bill. So again, work with the schools. If the schools deny and don't allow it or say that I'm not going to give something, then you seek attorney help. But please stop running to these attorneys. ADAP is good because ADAP, they are true advocates. But as far as these attorneys, try work with your school systems first.
And even with ADAP, I tell my parents, work it out with the school. That's like sibling to sibling. When you go and get ADAP, that's like bringing in a parent. And nobody wants to know that you didn't even come and talk to me. You just went and got, the big boss. We could have worked this out because ADAP comes and they get all in their business. So you want to, and that is an Alabama agency, but whatever your state is, they have some equivalent that helps you navigate this system. Now, Attorney Bolling, if the people want to reach out to you, I understand that you say you represent school boards. So would that mean that you could not represent them in a case against a school board that obviously is not one that you represent?
Well, I probably ethically, I can't even say the word today. Ethically could. But that being said, unless it was outside of a certain geographical area, I probably would not. But what I would do, and what I often tell folks, is that I'm always going to share and tell you information, tell you the truth, and tell you where to go to help you enforce your rights. And I don't have a problem with you enforcing your rights. Okay, I won't provide the advice to you. But if you contact me and I identify it as being an issue, I will discuss what I believe rights are, without giving you advice about what to do. And I will make sure that of the people that you're thinking about or suggesting that you use, I will just, based on my experience, let you know who is someone that's reputable and who's out just to get a check.
And so I heard somebody say, well, is that all he does? What else do you do, Attorney Bolling? What other kind of matters? Because we got to feed these kids. Okay.
Medical malpractice, car accidents. I started off, I was going to be a criminal prosecutor. That's all I was going to do coming out of school. I actually practiced as a criminal defense lawyer as a student at Howard in my 3rd year. Prior to graduation, I got a special license in DC and took on criminal matters there. So I thought I was just going to be Matlock or Perry Mason type thing. And lo and behold, I worked down in Perry County for about 3 years, where I did everything from chicken disputes to car accidents to criminal matters. And then I came and started doing defense work with Thomas Means Gillis and C. In about 2001, right about the time of maybe November or so, 2001. And so I worked there doing all types of governmental defense work with that law firm. I was on the defense side. But I've had personal injury successes in cases there. I've had some medical malpractice matters. And I pretty much say develop the relationship. And if you got an issue that needs to be handled, just consider me your attorney, because I'm not going to take it on if I can't handle it.
And he does free consultations. I'm like, these kids hungry. You talking to these people for 3 hours. But that's just the kind of stuff we do, y'all. That's just kind of stuff we do. If the people want you, Kina says chicken. If the people want to reach you, Attorney Bolling, how can they do that?
Well, they can reach me at 205-541-2470. They can reach me at bowlinglawfirm@gmail.com. I got some other tags I can't think of right now.
But that's it. 205-541.
She's not gonna want to say it, but you can drop a tag at whatever contact that Dr. Brandy B has. Because
that'd be fine. Because most people end up asking me anyway. Y'all know he
right. Because despite the fact that she tells you, I have no idea about what your case might be about. People still are gonna just make their assumptions. They're gonna say, "Well, hey, can you get Fred on the phone?" And where she
that's
always
what they do.
Says, if I can't get him on the phone, if you can't get him on the phone, I can't. And usually, if I'm not can't get on the phone, it's because I'm dealing with one of my school boards or in a hearing or something. I'm dealing with that. But
Marlon says, we got these kids. That's the realest statement ever. Exactly. And as a father of 3, he has triplets, y'all. He and Miss Deidre have triplets. And of course, we have 3 that are not triplets, but close in age at 3, 6, and 7. So I appreciate you, Attorney Fred Bolling, coming over and hanging out with us today. I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to close my folks out. So you are welcome to, Miss Deidre says we need a consultation with me or with attorney. You need to cut. Thank you, Dr. Brady, Attorney Bolling. Who you need the consultation with?
Well, that's future lawyer Deidre right there, right?
That's right. I forgot. And I understand she needs a consultation with the attorney. Well, now you have his number. And like people always say, I'm sure he told you. No, he did not. I don't talk to him about my patients, and he doesn't talk to me about his clients. And that's why we can look at the people we see in the community and smile. And I really don't know what's going on. So that's just what we do. But thank you so much, Attorney Bolling. Jada says we are funny, girl. We just be carrying on. People be like, y'all ain't been married for 10 years.
Now we may talk about our clients, but we're not talking about the business of our clients.
Oh no. We don't know.
Some of y'all funny, so we might laugh. We might laugh.
But it's not to do with whatever you have going on from a medical or legal standpoint. All right, Attorney Bolling, go on and tell the people bye-bye. I will see you a little bit later. You're going to start cooking something. I'm hungry. All right, love you. Bye.
Oh no, you owe me dinner.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I did tell.
I did
tell him he was getting better. Okay, but that was when I thought we were going to come on at 12:30, and we would have been able to go to lunch. Now we got these kids, so we gonna see.
Awesome, Marlon Ward. I look forward to it.
All right.
And I'm mad that you didn't tell me that Gabby wanted to play football. She's she's strong.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. So thank y'all so much for joining. Was that fun? Was that not amazing? Did y'all enjoy yourselves? Oh my goodness. I'm gonna start crying. I'm gonna think y'all like my guests more than me. Y'all love Dr. Terrelin and y'all loved Attorney Bolling. I tell you, I am just gonna start thinking that you all just do not even love me. Y'all still love Dr. Brandy. Y'all still love Dr. Brandy B? Or y'all just love my guests? I don't know. Y'all love me? Or is it just my guests? All right. This has been really fun. It's been long. We love you both. Look at Nicole. That's a politically correct statement. We love you both. And we love you too. We love you too. I love you all. That's why I am over here with you all every Friday. We were late today. We had a sick child that we had to go and attend to. And he's okay. But we're parents first, right? And everybody said, we like that you're so transparent and we like that you keep it real. Well, honey, look, I have too much going on to try to pretend to be somebody else. So all I know how to be is Brandy. I've been Brandy for a long time now. Tried to get my mom to change my name to Christy. She wouldn't do it. So it looks like I'm just going to be stuck with Brandy. But I do love you all so very much. And I appreciate y'all. I'm going to plug my book because guess what? The other place I forgot to remind you all is that if you're looking for all the information about special education, I also have it in my book. This book really is beginning to end anything to do with ADHD. From what it is to, okay, I'm in agreement with it. I think my child may have it. Now, who do we go see? What do we do next? how do we write this letter? It's all in the book. Like, I know that's cliche, but it's really in the book. And then of course I give you some stuff to do at the end. I don't really have any announcements. Feel like I'm at church. But I really appreciate you all for showing Attorney Bolling so much love. Attorney Bolling, he loves to talk, y'all. He be talking. But I just love him because of the way that he loves people. He loves people, and he really does want kids to excel and do well. So go ahead, and I don't know which date in January, but be on the lookout for Mommy's Time Out. It's a day where moms take a time out. Sorry, guys, it's not for y'all. But we just come, we hang out, we talked makeup, we talked fashion, we talked health, screenings, and it was all many short snippets. I'm going to get not an evaluation, but a survey that I'm going to send out to the people who came last year to see what they might be interested in. Like, do we do it in person? Do we want a 2-day? Just to kind of get a feel for that. But I do appreciate y'all showing me so much love. If there is nothing else, I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy your weekend. It's a long weekend, so be safe. I still have not forgotten the bullying talk. I think that my bullying person may be available to come on. So I will get with that person to see if we can't move that forward. But thank you all for letting me come into your homes and into your lives now for 2 years. This has just been such a blessing to me. And I feel like I'm being obedient to God. And so he continues to bless my life and that of my family. If y'all need me, give me a ring. Love you all. I'll see you next week. I'm Dr. Brandy B, your triple board certified pediatrician, adult psychiatrist, and child and adolescent psychiatrist, author of the book Shine, Understanding ADHD, so your child can be a star, speaker. So if you need me at your school, let me be there. Mommy advocate, giving mommies and daddies too, we like daddies, what it is that they need so that they can help propel their students, grandchildren, neighbor, parishioner from the point that they are now to the point of excellence when they shine. In everything you do this weekend, be great, be blessed, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.